across 1,000 worlds, Jedi generals led clone troopers into battle, fighting side by side against the separatist threat. Brothers in arms, comrades forged in the fires of war, until 3 words shattered everything. Execute Order 66. In that instant, friends became executioners, guardians became targets, and the galaxy's defenders fell to those they trusted most. This is the story of the day the light nearly died. Years before the first battle droids marched, before the Clone Wars ignited, Darth Sidious already held the weapon that would destroy the Jedi Order. Not a superweapon, not an army of Sith. Something far more insidious. A biological leash embedded in the mind of every clone trooper. The clone army's creation on Kamino was presented to the Republic as a miracle. A ready-made military force appearing exactly when the galaxy needed it most. The Jedi accepted this gift, never questioning too deeply. Never wondering why an army designed supposedly for them came with such specific features. Deep within the genetic architecture of every clone soldier, Kaminoan scientists had implanted biochips in their brains. Officially, these inhibitor chips were explained as behavioral modification devices, tools to suppress the aggressive tendencies clones inherited from Jango Fett, making them more obedient soldiers. The truth was far darker. These chips contained contingency orders, emergency protocols supposedly designed for extreme scenarios. Order 65. Remove the Supreme Chancellor if he's deemed unfit. Order 37. Mass arrest of civilian leadership. Dozens of contingencies, each with its own activation code. But one order stood apart from all others. Order 66. In the event of Jedi officers acting against the interests of the Republic, they are to be executed immediately. Sidious had woven this command into the very DNA of the Republic's defenders more than a decade before he would need it. Every clone who fought beside Jedi, who saved them, who called them General with respect and even affection, each carried a hidden directive that could transform them into executioners at a single command. The Jedi walked among weapons that didn't know they were weapons. For years, the Clone Wars raged. Jedi and clones fought together, bled together, mourned together. Generals like Obi-Wan Kenobi developed deep bonds with commanders like Cody. Anakin Skywalker trusted Captain Rex with his life. Plo Koon called his pilots "my boys" and meant it. Ahsoka Tano considered her 501st Troopers family. These relationships were real. The loyalty was genuine, and that made what was coming even more devastating. Sidious watched from the shadows as these bonds deepened, knowing that when the moment arrived, the betrayal would strike with surgical precision precisely because it came from those the Jedi trusted most. Brothers would kill brothers without hesitation, without remorse, without even understanding why. The inhibitor chips would see to that. But Sidious had learned patience during his decades-long manipulation of the Republic. He waited for the perfect moment, when the Jedi were scattered across the galaxy, when they were exhausted from 3 years of war, when they were too close to victory to see the trap closing around them. He waited until he had transformed Anakin Skywalker into Darth Vader, eliminating the Jedi's greatest warrior and gaining the weapon he needed to storm the Jedi Temple itself. He waited until the Republic had been conditioned to see the Jedi as potential threats, their political power expanded by war until senators whispered about their growing influence. Everything aligned perfectly. The stage was set. But the conspiracy had nearly unraveled before Sidious could spring his trap. One clone almost saved them all. His name was Fives. CT-555 was an ARC trooper, a soldier who had earned distinction through countless battles. More importantly, he was the kind of clone who asked questions, who thought beyond his programming. When his brother Top suffered a catastrophic malfunction during a mission on Ringo Vinda, suddenly attacking and killing Jedi General Tiplar without provocation, Fives refused to accept the official explanation. Something was terribly wrong. Top's breakdown provided the first crack in Sidious's perfect plan. As the clone's inhibitor chip malfunctioned, causing premature activation of Order 66, it exposed the conspiracy's existence. Tup died rambling about good soldiers follow orders and completing his mission to kill the Jedi. Fives discovered the chip. He discovered that every clone had one. The ARC trooper went to the Jedi, desperate to warn them. He explained the chips, the danger they represented. He begged them to investigate. Standing before some of the wisest beings in the galaxy, Fives offered them the key to preventing their own destruction. But Palpatine was always 3 steps ahead. The Supreme Chancellor manipulated the situation masterfully. He arranged a meeting with Fives, then triggered the clone's chip to make him appear paranoid and violent. To the Jedi and to Captain Rex, their brother seemed to be suffering a mental breakdown, ranting about conspiracies and chips controlling their minds. Fives was killed trying to expose the truth, shot down by Coruscant guard troopers who believed they were stopping a dangerous, unstable clone. His final words to Rex were a warning. The mission, the nightmares, they're finally over. Rex didn't understand. Not then. The Jedi investigated briefly, but the Kaminoans, who had designed the chips under Sidious's direction, provided convincing medical explanations. The chips were behavioral inhibitors, nothing more, necessary for clone stability. The Council, already overwhelmed by war, accepted this explanation. They buried the warning. They returned to the war. And Sidious breathed easier, knowing his plan remained intact. Other signs appeared, whispers of the coming darkness that the Jedi couldn't quite interpret. Master Yoda experienced terrible visions of the future, of Jedi falling, of clone troopers turning their weapons on their generals. He shared his concerns with Mace Windu and the Council, but visions were always in motion, always uncertain. The dark side clouded everything. The Jedi had grown so accustomed to fighting the war that they failed to see they were fighting in a war designed to destroy them. Every battle scattered them further across the galaxy. Every victory made them trust their clone allies more deeply. Every day brought them closer to the moment when that trust would kill them. The irony was cruel. The Jedi had become generals in an army created specifically to murder them. As the Clone Wars entered their final days, Sidious maneuvered all the pieces into position. The Separatist leadership gathered on Mustafar. Anakin Skywalker fell to the dark side, becoming Darth Vader. The Jedi Council grew suspicious of Palpatine, but not quickly enough. Everything converged on a single point in time. The day the Jedi died began like any other day of war. Across the galaxy, Jedi led their troops in countless battles. On Maijito, Ki Adi Mundi commanded his forces against droid battalions. On Felucia, Aila Sakura coordinated with Commander Bly in the dense jungles. On Cato Nemoidia, Plo Koon flew alongside his loyal clone pilots. On Kashyyyk, Yoda fought beside the Wookiees and Commander Gree. On Utapau, Obi-Wan Kenobi had just confronted General Grievous, finally within reach of ending the war. None of them knew these were their final moments of peace. In the Chancellor's office on Coruscant, Mace Windu lay defeated. Palpatine had revealed himself as Darth Sidious, and though the Jedi Master had brought him to the edge of death, Anakin's betrayal tipped the balance. Windu fell from the shattered window, tumbling into the Coruscant underworld. Darth Vader knelt before his new master, and Sidious, finally free to act openly, reached for his communicator. The moment had arrived. 3 years of war, decades of planning, a conspiracy spanning generations, all of it crystallizing into 3 words. Across the galaxy, holographic communicators activated simultaneously. Clone commanders received identical messages, each one brief and direct. Sidious's withered face appeared before them, his voice carrying absolute authority. Execute Order 66. 3 words. Just 3 words. On Maijito, Commander Bakara received the transmission while marching beside Ki-Adi-Mundi. The Syrian Jedi Master was discussing their next tactical move, his mind on the battle ahead, trusting the clones who had fought alongside him for years. The inhibitor chip activated. Bakara's eyes changed. Not dramatically. There was no visible transformation, no obvious sign of what had just occurred in his mind. But something fundamental shifted. The man who had served beside the Jedi, who had shared strategies and victories with them, vanished. In his place stood an executioner. "Blast him," Bakara ordered. The Galactic Marines raised their weapons and opened fire. Ki-Adi-Mundi barely had time to ignite his lightsaber before the barrage hit him. Blue bolts tore through him from every direction. The Jedi Master fell in the snow, his life extinguished in seconds. On Felucia, Aayla Secura walked through the jungle with Commander Bly and his troops. The beautiful Twi'lek Jedi had fought countless battles with these men. She had saved their lives. They had saved hers. Bonds of trust and mutual respect connected them. Bly received the order. His finger moved to his weapon without hesitation, without thought. The chip suppressed everything. Memory, emotion, hesitation. Good soldiers follow orders. Aayla sensed the danger a fraction of a second too late. She turned, her montrals detecting the shift in intent, her connection to the Force screaming warning. The blasters fired. She deflected one bolt, then another. But there were too many, coming from too many directions. These were her soldiers, her allies. The betrayal was too sudden, too complete. Aayla Secura fell among the strange plants of Felucia, her blue skin marked by blaster burns, her eyes still showing the confusion of betrayal as the light left them. High above Cato Nemoidia, Plo Koon flew his starfighter in formation with his clone pilots. The Keldor Jedi Master was perhaps the most beloved of all Jedi generals among the clone army. He treated every trooper with genuine care and respect, never viewing them as expendable or just numbers. His pilots adored him. They called him a father figure. They would have died for him willingly. Captain Jag received the order. The clones didn't speak, didn't warn him, didn't hesitate. Their fighters locked onto their leader's ship and fired. The sudden attack caught Plo Koon completely off guard. The betrayal came from those he trusted most, those who trusted him. His starfighter exploded in a ball of flame, tumbling from the sky. Plo Koon, who had survived countless battles, who had fought with honor and compassion, died without even understanding why his own men had killed him. The systematic execution continued across hundreds of worlds. On Saleokami, Stas Ali rode her speeder bike through the open terrain, her clone scout troopers keeping pace beside her. The blaster fire came from behind, precise and emotionless. She crashed in flames. On Kashyyyk, Commander Gree approached Master Yoda from behind, weapon raised. But Yoda had spent 8 centuries learning the Force's warnings. He sensed the betrayal before it happened, turning in a blur of green motion. His lightsaber struck faster than the eye could follow. Gree and his fellow clone fell before they could fire. Yoda escaped. But even the Grand Master felt the magnitude of what was happening through the Force. Thousands of lights winking out across the galaxy. Jedi dying by the scores, their shock and betrayal rippling through the cosmic energy that connected all living things. On Utapau, Obi-Wan Kenobi stood far above the battlefield, looking down from a high platform. He had just defeated General Grievous, the war seemingly at its end. He felt relief for the first time in 3 years. Commander Cody stood nearby, the clone who had fought beside Kenobi through countless battles, who had developed a friendship with the Jedi Master that transcended military protocol. They had saved each other's lives repeatedly. They shared an understanding, a mutual respect rare between Jedi and clones. Cody received the order. Every memory, every moment of camaraderie, every joke shared and battle survived. The chip buried all of it beneath cold programming. Good soldiers follow orders. Obi-Wan's lightsaber was in Cody's hand, returned moments earlier after the Jedi had dropped it during his confrontation with Grievous. The commander raised his blaster rifle, aiming at his general's back. "Blast him," Cody ordered his troops. The heavy cannon fired. The platform exploded beneath Obi-Wan's feet. The Jedi Master plunged into the depths of Utapau's sinkhole, the fall deadly to anyone but a Jedi. Cody watched emotionlessly as his general disappeared into the darkness below. There was no satisfaction in his expression, no regret, no recognition of what he had just done. The chip allowed no such things. He simply reported the target eliminated and moved on to his next objective. But Obi-Wan Kenobi was not dead. The Force cushioned his fall, and he grabbed onto the side of the sinkhole, finding a hidden cave. His mind reeled from the betrayal. Cody had tried to kill him, his own commander, the man he trusted. What was happening? On Coruscant, while Jedi fell on distant worlds, the true heart of the Order still stood intact. The Jedi Temple rose above the cityscape, a monument to 10,000 years of tradition. Within its walls, younglings trained, Padawans studied, masters meditated. Thousands of Jedi called this place home. They had no idea what was marching toward them. Darth Vader led the 501st Legion, once Anakin Skywalker's most loyal troops, now his instruments of destruction. These clones had fought beside Anakin through the entire war. They knew him as their general, their hero. Now they followed him without question as he led them to slaughter their former allies. The Temple's defenders never stood a chance. Vader ignited his lightsaber, no longer blue but burning red with dark side corruption, and cut through the Temple guards who tried to stop him. The 501st poured in behind him, their training and familiarity with the Temple's layout making them devastatingly effective. They knew every corridor, every meditation chamber, every hiding place. Because they had protected this place for 3 years, the clones moved through the Temple with mechanical efficiency, executing Jedi with the same precision they had once used to protect them. Padawans fell defending younglings. Masters died trying to evacuate their students. The hallways that had echoed with peaceful meditation now rang with blaster fire and screams. In the Temple's communication center, Vader personally ensured that no warning could be sent to surviving Jedi scattered across the galaxy. He altered the recall signal, transforming it into a trap. Any Jedi who received the message to return home would be walking into an ambush. The younglings huddled in the council chambers, their instructor trying desperately to protect them. When Vader entered, the children looked to him with hope. Surely Master Skywalker had come to save them. Master Skywalker, "There are too many of them. What are we going to do?" a small voice asked. Vader's response was his ignited lightsaber. What happened next was so dark, so horrifying, that even decades later the few who knew the full truth could barely speak of it. The Chosen One, the hero of the Republic, murdered children, not in the heat of battle, not as collateral damage, deliberately, systematically, without mercy. The temple burned. Smoke rose into Coruscant's sky, visible across the entire city planet. Citizens who had grown accustomed to the Jedi Temple as an unchanging landmark in their skyline watched in confusion and growing horror as flames consumed it. Official broadcasts declared that the Jedi had attempted to assassinate the Chancellor, that they had betrayed the Republic. The smoke was evidence of their treachery being purged. Few knew they were watching the death of the light itself, but even as the temple fell, even as Jedi died across 1,000 worlds, a question remained. A question that haunted the few survivors and tormented those who later learned the truth. Why didn't the clones hesitate? How could men who had fought beside Jedi, who had developed genuine friendships and bonds of trust, turn on them so completely? How could there be no warning, no reluctance, no sign of internal conflict? The answer lay in the inhibitor chips, but the full horror of what those chips did went beyond simple mind control. When Order 66 activated, the chips didn't just override the clones' free will. They didn't simply force obedience despite personal feelings. The process was far more invasive, far more complete. The chips rewrote reality itself in the clones' minds. In the instant of activation, every memory, every positive interaction, every moment of camaraderie with the Jedi was recontextualized. The clone who had just been fighting beside his general, who trusted her with his life, suddenly understood that she had always been a threat, that she had been manipulating him, that she was the enemy. It wasn't that Commander Bly felt conflicted about killing Aayla Secura and chose to follow orders anyway. From his perspective in that moment, he had never cared about her at all. She was simply a target that needed to be eliminated. Cody didn't wrestle with guilt about betraying Obi-Wan Kenobi. The chip made him incapable of perceiving it as betrayal. He was following a legitimate military order against a threat to the Republic. Nothing more. The clones retained their tactical knowledge, their combat skills, their ability to function as soldiers. But their perception of the Jedi transformed instantly from ally to enemy. The chip didn't force them to act against their will. It changed what they willed. This made Order 66 even more insidious than simple mind control. Mind control could be resisted, fought against. A person forced to act against their will might show signs of internal struggle, might hesitate, or show remorse afterward. The chips allowed none of that. They created perfect, emotionless executioners who believed they were doing the right thing. The Kaminoan scientists who designed this system understood clone psychology intimately. They knew that clones developed attachments, that they formed bonds with their Jedi generals. So they didn't try to prevent those bonds from forming. Instead, they built a weapon that could sever them instantly and completely. The cruelty was breathtaking. For 3 years, clones and Jedi built genuine relationships, fighting and bleeding together. Every shared victory, every life saved, every moment of trust. All of it made Order 66 more effective, not less. Because when the moment came, those relationships ensured the Jedi would never see it coming. The chips achieved what no Sith army could have accomplished. An external enemy, no matter how powerful, would have given the Jedi something to fight against. They would have sensed the danger, rallied their defenses, united against the threat. But how do you defend against your own protectors? How do you fight those you trust completely? You don't. You die, confused and betrayed, wondering what you did wrong. The chip's activation was nearly universal, affecting millions of clone troopers simultaneously across the galaxy. The Kaminoans had engineered them to be fail-safe, resistant to removal or deactivation, triggered by a specific code phrase that only the Supreme Chancellor possessed. Nearly universal, but not completely. A handful of clones managed to resist, and their stories revealed the true cost of fighting the chip's programming. Captain Rex stood aboard a Venator-class Star Destroyer with Ahsoka Tano when the order came through. Rex had fought alongside Ahsoka longer than almost any clone had worked with any Jedi. Though she had left the Order before the war ended, their bond remained unbreakable. When his chip activated, Rex felt his hand moving toward his weapon, felt his mind filling with the overwhelming directive to execute the Jedi. But Rex had listened when Fives tried to warn him about the chips. That warning, buried in his memory, gave him a fraction of a second's awareness. "Find him," Rex gasped, fighting against his own programming with every ounce of will he possessed. "Find him. Fives. The nightmare. Find him." Ahsoka didn't understand, but she saw her friend's agony as he battled himself. She saw him trying to warn her even as his body moved to kill her. Rex managed to give her just enough information. Fives, the chip, the truth, before the programming overwhelmed him. The fight that followed was devastating. Rex and his troops pursued Ahsoka through the ship, trying to kill her with the same tactical brilliance Rex had always shown. But now that brilliance was turned against someone he cared about like a sister. Ahsoka managed to capture Rex and, using medical equipment and the information he'd gasped out, removed his inhibitor chip. The surgery was crude, performed in crisis conditions while other clones hunted them through the ship. When Rex woke, freed from the chip's control, the horror of what had happened crashed over him. He had tried to kill Ahsoka. His brothers were trying to kill all the Jedi, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The emotional and psychological trauma was immense. Rex had to live with the knowledge that if not for Fives' warning, if not for Ahsoka's quick thinking, he would have murdered her without hesitation or remorse. The chip would have made him believe it was right. Even freed from its control, the violation of having his mind hijacked, his memories and feelings manipulated, left scars that would never fully heal. Commander Wolf and Commander Gregor also managed to remove their chips, though the circumstances of their liberation remained unclear. Both clones survived into the Imperial era, but they were changed, paranoid, damaged, unable to ever fully trust again. They had been turned into weapons against their will. Even after escaping that fate, the knowledge of what they almost did, what their brothers had done, haunted them. Some clones showed brief moments of resistance before the chips fully took hold. Cut Lawquane, who had deserted before the war ended to start a family, may have avoided the Order entirely by being far from military command structures. His chip never received the activation signal. But for every clone who escaped or resisted, millions more became executioners. The 501st, Anakin's most loyal troops, slaughtered the Jedi Temple without hesitation. Commander Appo, who had served under Skywalker for years, led the attack personally. These were clones who had joked with Anakin, who had celebrated victories with Ahsoka, who knew Padawans by name. The chips erased all of it. On Saleokami, on Maigito, on Felucia, and 100 other worlds, clone commanders who had developed friendships with their Jedi generals killed them without warning or remorse. Years of shared experience, of mutual respect and trust, meant nothing against the chip's programming. The betrayal was so complete, so sudden, that most Jedi died without ever understanding what had happened. They fell believing their friends had turned against them, never knowing about the chips, never knowing their clones had no choice. That ignorance was perhaps a mercy, because the truth, that their soldiers had been built from the beginning to kill them, that every bond formed during the war was built on a foundation of inevitable betrayal, might have been even harder to bear. The Jedi who fell during Order 66 represented the full spectrum of the Order. Legendary masters of the High Council died alongside unknown Padawans serving in obscure sectors. Each death diminished the light in the galaxy. Master Agen Kolar fell in Palpatine's office, one of the 4 Jedi Masters who attempted to arrest the Chancellor. His yellow lightsaber was no match for Sidious's dark side fury. Master Saesi Tian died in the same confrontation, his exceptional piloting skills and force abilities useless against the Sith Lord's overwhelming power. Master Kit Fisto, the smiling Nautolan who brought joy even to the darkness of war, lasted seconds longer than his companions before Sidious cut him down. On Cato Nemoidia, Plo Koon's death meant the loss of one of the Jedi's wisest and most compassionate voices. His mastery of Force lightning and his tactical genius died with him in the flames of his starfighter. Ki-Adi-Mundi, the Syrian Jedi Master, whose species binary brain allowed for exceptional mental capacity, fell in seconds when Commander Bakara's Marines opened fire. All his intelligence and force sensitivity couldn't save him from point-blank blaster fire from every direction. Ayla Secura, the Twi'lek Jedi whose beauty was matched by her combat prowess and wisdom, died on Felucia surrounded by soldiers she considered allies. Her final moments showed not anger, but profound confusion. Why would Bly do this? Stas Ali, the Thalothian Jedi who had served with distinction throughout the war, was gunned down on Saleokami without warning. One moment, she was scouting enemy positions with her troops. The next, she was dead. Countless others fell whose names aren't recorded in the archives, whose deaths weren't witnessed by anyone who survived to tell their stories. Padawans on distant outposts, knights leading small clone detachments, masters serving as advisors to local planetary governments. Each one a light extinguished, each one an irreplaceable loss to the Force. The younglings in the temple represented perhaps the greatest tragedy. These children had trained for years, some since infancy, learning to control their abilities and serve the light. They trusted the Jedi Order completely, believed they were safe within the temple's walls. Darth Vader murdered them all. The youngest victims of Order 66 never even understood why they had to die. They just knew that Master Skywalker, who they had looked up to, who they had wanted to be like when they grew up, killed them. Some Jedi died defending others. Master Shak Ti survived the initial purge and tried to protect the temple, fighting desperately to evacuate younglings and Padawans. Accounts of her fate vary. Some records show her falling to Vader's blade in the temple, others during a later confrontation. Regardless of when she died, Shak Ti fought to the end to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Jocasta Nu, the elderly chief librarian of the Jedi Archives, survived the initial attack on the temple. She returned later, trying to save the precious knowledge contained in the archives before it could be destroyed or corrupted by the Empire. Her final stand showed the courage that existed in even the most scholarly Jedi. She fought Vader himself, knowing she couldn't win, buying time for the knowledge she'd protected for decades. The Grand Inquisitor killed her personally, but not before she ensured some of the Archive's secrets survived. The Temple Guards, anonymous protectors who had defended the Jedi Order for generations, died at their posts. These warriors, who had forsaken their individual identities to serve the greater good, fell defending the Temple against the 501st. Some fought to the last breath. Others were gunned down before they could even ignite their lightsaber pikes. Their golden armor, symbol of their sacred duty, was scattered throughout the Temple's halls. On planets across the Outer Rim, Jedi serving in isolated posts received the recall order and returned to Coruscant, walking directly into Vader's trap. They arrived at the Temple expecting to reunite with their fellow Jedi to celebrate the war's end. Instead, clone troopers and inquisitors were waiting. These Jedi died confused, unable to comprehend how the Order's home had become a killing ground. The deaths continued for hours, then days, as the Empire's forces hunted down every Jedi they could find. Some were captured and given the choice to join the Inquisitorius or die. Most chose death over serving the dark side. The Jedi who became Inquisitors, broken Jedi, turned to hunt their former brothers and sisters, represented their own kind of tragedy. The Grand Inquisitor had once been a Temple Guard. The pain of his fall, of becoming the very thing he had sworn to protect against, would haunt him until his eventual death. In the span of a single day, the Jedi Order went from 10,000 strong to fewer than 100 survivors. 300 centuries of tradition, of accumulated wisdom and knowledge, nearly erased in hours. The Force itself seemed to scream with the magnitude of the loss. Across the galaxy, Force-sensitive beings who weren't even Jedi felt the disturbance, the sudden vanishing of thousands of lights. It was as if the galaxy itself had been wounded, a gaping hole torn in the fabric of the Force. Yoda, fleeing through Kashayek's forests with the help of Chewbacca and Tarful, felt every death like a personal blow. The ancient Jedi Master had trained many of those who fell. They were his students, his children in the Force, and he had failed to protect them. Survival during Order 66 required more than just Force sensitivity or lightsaber skill. It demanded luck, quick thinking, and sometimes the willingness to abandon everything the Jedi had stood for just to live another day. Each survivor's story was unique, forged in those desperate moments when the galaxy turned against them. Obi-Wan Kenobi plunged into the depths of Utapau's sinkhole, the platform exploding above him as Commander Cody's troops fired. The Force cushioned his fall, and he managed to grab onto a rocky outcropping partway down. Pain shot through his body, but he was alive. Above, he could hear Cody's voice calmly reporting his death, his friend, his brother in arms, the man who had saved his life dozens of times and whose life Obi-Wan had saved in return. Cody had just tried to murder him. Obi-Wan found Boga, the loyal Varactyl he'd ridden into battle against Grievous. The creature had also fallen during the explosion, but survived. Together, they escaped through Utapau's caves, avoiding clone patrols. The Jedi Master stole a clone trooper's uniform and blaster, disguising himself to reach a ship. Every moment, he felt the deaths rippling through the Force. Jedi were falling everywhere. Something catastrophic was happening, but he didn't yet understand what. He only knew he had to reach Coruscant, had to find out what was happening. Master Yoda stood on Kashyyyk as Commander Gree and another clone approached from behind. The ancient Jedi's connection to the Force was so profound that he sensed the betrayal before the clones could act. His lightsaber ignited, and struck in a single fluid motion. Greef fell, his head separated from his body before his finger could pull the trigger. Yoda didn't hesitate, didn't pause to mourn or question. 800 years of experience kicked in instantly. This was an ambush, a coordinated attack, and he needed to escape immediately. Chewbacca and Tarful, the Wookiee leaders, sensed something was wrong. They had fought alongside Yoda, respected him deeply. When the clones began hunting the Grand Master through Kashyyyk's forests, the Wookiees intervened. They smuggled Yoda through the massive Rashir trees, using secret paths the clones didn't know existed. The Wookiees' loyalty to the Jedi Master meant more than their fear of the clone army's retribution. At a hidden landing platform, Yoda commandeered an escape pod, fleeing Kashyyyk as clone forces scoured the planet for him. Like Obi-Wan, he felt the tremor in the Force, thousands of lights winking out across the galaxy. The Jedi Order was being destroyed, and Yoda didn't know why. Ahsoka Tano wasn't even a Jedi anymore when Order 66 struck. She had left the Order before the war's end, disillusioned by their failings and the Council's mistakes. But that technicality didn't matter to the inhibitor chips. The clones saw her as a Jedi. She was a target. Rex's warning, gasped out in those final seconds before his chip took full control, gave her the information she needed. She understood what was happening faster than most, understood that her friends weren't choosing to betray her. They were being controlled. That knowledge made the fight harder, not easier. Ahsoka couldn't bring herself to kill the 501st troopers who hunted her through the Star Destroyer. These were Rex's men, soldiers she'd led into battle, clones she knew by name. She disabled them instead, using the Force to disarm and incapacitate without killing. It was brutally difficult. They were trying to kill her, shooting to eliminate, and she was trying to save them. After removing Rex's chip, they fought together to survive, trying desperately to save more clones. But there wasn't time. The ship was falling apart around them, damaged in the chaos. Ahsoka made the impossible choice. She released Maul, the Sith Lord she had just captured, knowing he would create enough chaos to distract the clones while she and Rex escaped. The former Padawan and the freed clone fled in a Y-wing as the Star Destroyer crashed into a moon's surface. Behind them, hundreds of clones died in the wreckage. Men whose chips Ahsoka couldn't remove, who would have kept trying to kill her to their last breath. She and Rex buried the dead afterward, marking the crash site with a memorial. The 501st helmets planted in the ground stood as a monument to the clones who had been turned into weapons against their will. Ahsoka disappeared into the galaxy, one more survivor carrying the weight of Order 66's horrors. Caleb Doom was just a Padawan when Order 66 found him. He stood on collar with his master, Depa Billaba, celebrating a successful campaign. The war seemed close to ending. Caleb was thinking about finally returning to the temple, about seeing his friends again. Then Commander Gray and Captain Styles received the order. Depa sensed the danger first. She threw herself in front of Caleb as the clones opened fire, her lightsaber deflecting bolts meant for her Padawan. "Run!" she screamed at him. "Caleb, run!" The boy fled into the forests of Collar, hearing his master's lightsaber behind him, hearing her fighting to give him time to escape. He heard the blaster fire intensify, heard it finally stop. Depa Billaba died on Kalar, cut down by the troops she'd led for years. Her final act was saving her Padawan's life. Caleb survived through a combination of the Force, desperation, and help from unexpected allies. He cut his Padawan braid, abandoned his lightsaber, and disappeared. The boy who had been Caleb Doom died that day. In his place emerged Kanan Jarrus, a survivor who would spend years running from his past. Cal Kestis experienced a similar trauma on Braca. The young Padawan was fighting alongside his master, Jaro Tapal, when the clones turned. Master Tapal defended his apprentice ferociously, using his massive size and strength to shield Cal from the blaster fire. But there were too many clones, too many angles of attack. Tapal was shot multiple times, mortally wounded protecting his Padawan. With his dying strength, he gave Cal his lightsaber and used the Force to push the boy into an escape. Podner and Cal survived the initial purge, but the trauma of watching his master die to save him, of being helpless as Jaro Tapal fell, haunted him for years. He hid on Braca as a scrapper, suppressing his Force abilities, living in constant fear of discovery. The lightsaber his master gave him remained in pieces, broken during their escape. Cal couldn't bring himself to repair it. Doing so would mean accepting his identity as a Jedi, and that identity had nearly killed him. Quinlan Vos survived through his specialized skills in espionage and his experience with the dark side. The maverick Jedi had spent years operating in the shadows, infiltrating criminal organizations and separatist cells. When Order 66 struck, Vos used those same skills to disappear. He understood cover identities, knew how to hide in plain sight, had contacts in the underworld willing to help him for the right price. But survival came at a cost. Vos had to watch from hiding as other Jedi died, unable to help them without exposing himself. The guilt of that survival, of choosing to hide while others fell, weighed on him. Some Jedi survived simply because they weren't with clone troopers when the Order came. Jedi serving on independent missions, working with local militaries rather than clone units, or stationed far from communication networks, escaped the initial purge. But survival was only the beginning of their nightmare. Because the Empire didn't stop hunting after the first day, Palpatine established the Inquisitorius specifically to hunt down the surviving Jedi. These dark side users, many of them fallen Jedi themselves, knew how Jedi thought, how they used the Force where they might hide. The Grand Inquisitor led the organization with ruthless efficiency. He had once been a Jedi temple guard, sworn to protect the Order. His fall to the dark side and subsequent role as Chief Jedi Hunter represented one of Order 66's cruelest ironies. The Inquisitors hunted systematically. They investigated reports of Force use, followed leads on Jedi sightings, and ruthlessly interrogated anyone suspected of harboring fugitives. Entire families died for the crime of showing a Jedi basic kindness. Some surviving Jedi chose to fight. They struck at Imperial targets, trying to resist the New Order. These Jedi died quickly. The Empire had overwhelming force and no compunction about using it. Others tried to hide but couldn't fully suppress their nature. They used the Force to help people, to right wrongs, to protect the innocent. Their compassion led Inquisitors right to them. The Jedi who survived longest were those who could truly disappear, who could suppress everything that made them Jedi. They didn't use the Force, didn't help people with their abilities, didn't ignite their lightsabers no matter the provocation. They survived by becoming less than they were. Obi-Wan Kenobi took the name Ben and disappeared into the deserts of Tatooine. The great Jedi General, the negotiator, the hero of the Republic, became a hermit watching over a boy from a distance. For 19 years, he didn't use his lightsaber in combat, didn't openly use the Force, didn't train new Jedi or try to rebuild the Order. He simply existed, waiting and hoping that Luke Skywalker would one day fulfill the destiny Obi-Wan believed awaited him. The loneliness was devastating. Obi-Wan went from being surrounded by fellow Jedi, by friends and allies, to complete isolation. He had no one to talk to who understood what he'd lost, no one who could share the burden of survivor's guilt. He meditated in the desert and occasionally spoke with the Force ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn, his own master. But mostly, he was alone with his memories and his grief. Yoda fled to Dagobah, a planet so saturated with the dark side that it masked his Force presence. The ancient Jedi Master, who had led the Order for centuries, lived in a mud hut in a swamp. The contrast couldn't have been starker. From the pinnacle of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant to a hovel on a backwater world. From Grand Master of 10,000 Jedi to the last keeper of dying knowledge. Yoda spent his exile preparing for the future, learning the secrets of Force immortality from Qui-Gon, maintaining his connection to the light despite the darkness surrounding him. But the cost was immense. He felt every Jedi death, carried the weight of his failure to protect them, questioned every decision that led to Order 66. The survivors lived with unbearable guilt. Why had they lived when so many others died? What made them special or worthy of survival? Could they have done more to save their brothers and sisters? There were no good answers to these questions. Survival was often random. Being in the right place at the right time, having the right skills, receiving the right warning. None of it was fair, but the guilt remained nonetheless. The galaxy changed fundamentally in the wake of Order 66. The Republic became the Empire in a single day. Palpatine declared himself Emperor, claiming emergency powers to deal with the Jedi threat. Most citizens accepted this narrative. The war-weary population wanted peace, wanted stability. If eliminating the Jedi brought that peace, so be it. The Jedi's political power had grown during the Clone Wars, making them seem like potential threats to democracy. Palpatine's propaganda painted them as religious zealots who had attempted a coup when their true nature was discovered. It was a lie. But it was a believable lie, and most people chose to believe it. The clone troopers, their inhibitor chips still active, felt no remorse about Order 66. From their perspective, they had eliminated a legitimate threat to the Republic. They had followed orders and protected the galaxy. Some clones, like Rex, who had their chips removed, struggled with the horror of what they'd been forced to do. But these were the minority. Most clones lived the rest of their lives believing they'd done the right thing. As the clones aged out of service, their accelerated aging making them obsolete within a decade, the Empire recruited regular humans as stormtroopers. These new soldiers had no memory of fighting beside Jedi, no conflicted feelings about the Purge. They were taught that the Jedi were dangerous traitors, and they believed it. The Jedi became myths, stories told in whispers. Some people claimed they'd never existed at all, that the Order was just a legend. Others remembered them but framed them as the villains Palpatine claimed they were. Within a generation, the truth of what the Jedi had been, peacekeepers, diplomats, protectors, was nearly forgotten. But the Force itself remembered, and it had not finished with the galaxy. The surviving Jedi remained scattered and hidden, but they carried something precious: knowledge, hope, and the potential for the Order's rebirth. Some, like Obi-Wan and Yoda, trained new students in secret. Others simply survived, keeping the light alive in their own way. Kanan Jarrus eventually embraced his identity as a Jedi again, training Ezra Bridger, and helping to spark the rebellion. His journey from broken Padawan to Jedi Knight showed that Order 66 hadn't completely succeeded in destroying what the Jedi represented. Cal Kestis rebuilt his lightsaber and began fighting the Empire, helping other Force sensitives escape the Inquisitors. He became a symbol of resistance, proof that the Jedi could still stand against darkness. Ahsoka Tano worked in the shadows, helping to establish the rebellion's intelligence networks. Though she didn't call herself a Jedi, she embodied their principles, protecting the innocent, fighting tyranny, serving the light. Each survivor, in their own way, kept the dream of the Jedi alive. The Force, seeking balance, ensured that hope remained. Luke Skywalker, trained by Obi-Wan and Yoda, became the new Jedi who would redeem his father and help destroy the Empire. He proved that one Jedi, true to the light, could change the galaxy's fate. Decades after Order 66, Rey would take up the Skywalker legacy, defeating Palpatine permanently and declaring herself a Jedi. The order that the Emperor tried to erase would rise again. The clones themselves became another tragedy of Order 66. The inhibitor chips that made them effective weapons against the Jedi also robbed them of their autonomy. They were victims as much as the Jedi were, used and discarded by both sides. Rex, Wolf, Gregor, and the few other clones who removed their chips became advocates for clone rights in the years after the war. They tried to help their brothers understand what had been done to them. But most clones never accepted the truth. The chip's programming was so complete that even discussing the possibility of manipulation caused cognitive dissonance. It was easier to believe they'd made the right choice than to confront the horror of what they'd been forced to do. The clones who did understand, who had their chips removed and remembered what they'd done under their control, often couldn't live with the knowledge. Some took their own lives, others drank themselves to death. A few, like Rex, found purpose in fighting the Empire, but none of them ever truly escaped the shadow of Order 66. The Inquisitors, too, were victims of a sort. These fallen Jedi had been broken by torture and the dark side, transformed into hunters of their former brothers and sisters. Most had been given the choice: join the Inquisitorius or die. Some chose death rather than betray everything they believed, but others, weakened by torture or fear, fell to the dark side and became instruments of the very evil they'd once fought against. Their eventual fates were uniformly tragic. The Grand Inquisitor threw himself into a reactor core rather than face Vader's wrath after failing to capture the Ghost Crew. The others died in combat, fell to infighting, or were killed by Vader when they outlived their usefulness. None found redemption. None escaped the darkness that consumed them. Order 66's legacy extended far beyond the initial deaths. It shaped galactic history for generations. The trauma of the Purge influenced how Force users were perceived, how governments treated Force sensitives, how societies viewed those with power. Luke Skywalker's attempt to rebuild the Jedi Order decades later was haunted by Order 66's shadow. The galaxy's lingering distrust of the Jedi, the fear that they would again accumulate too much power, made his task infinitely harder. When Ben Solo fell to the dark side and destroyed Luke's temple, many saw it as proof that the Jedi were inherently dangerous. The parallels to Order 66, a promising student turned dark, a temple destroyed, students slaughtered, were impossible to ignore. The cycle of destruction and renewal continued, each iteration carrying echoes of that terrible day when the clones turned on their generals. But through it all, the light persisted. Because Order 66, for all its devastation, didn't kill what mattered most about the Jedi. It didn't destroy compassion or hope or the willingness to fight for what's right. Those ideals survived in the scattered Jedi who escaped. They survived in people like Rex, who fought against his programming. They survived in the Wookiees who helped Yoda escape, in the ordinary citizens who hid Jedi at great personal risk, in everyone who chose light over darkness. Order 66 was designed to erase the Jedi completely and permanently. It failed. Not because the Jedi were too strong to kill, clearly they weren't. Not because the plan had flaws, it was executed with devastating efficiency. It failed because the Force itself ensured balance. Because hope, once planted, cannot be completely destroyed. Because the light always finds a way back. Order 66 stands as one of the darkest moments in galactic history. In a single day, 10,000 Jedi, guardians who had protected the galaxy for 300 centuries, were reduced to fewer than 100 survivors. Temples burned. Children died. Masters who had dedicated their lives to peace and knowledge fell to those they trusted most. The betrayal was total. The execution was flawless, and the galaxy would bear the scars for generations. But the story of Order 66 is not just a story of death and darkness. It's also a story about the resilience of hope, about the few who survived and carried the light forward, about the people who risked everything to help Jedi escape. It's about Rex fighting his own mind to give Ahsoka a warning, about Chewbacca and Tarful protecting Yoda at great risk to themselves, about Depa Billaba dying to save her Padawan, about every Jedi who stood their ground, knowing they would fall to buy others time to escape. The Jedi Order was almost erased. Almost. That single word carries immense weight, because almost means that enough survived to keep the dream alive. Enough survived to train new students. Enough survived to pass on the knowledge and traditions that Palpatine tried to bury. The Emperor believed he had won. He declared the Jedi extinct, their religion dead, their power broken forever. For a time, it seemed he was right. The galaxy accepted his narrative. The Jedi became myths and legends. But myths and legends have power. They inspire. They endure. They return when needed most. Luke Skywalker, trained in the ways of the Force by 2 survivors of the Purge, redeemed his father and helped destroy the Empire. He proved that one Jedi, dedicated to the light, could change everything. Rey, taking up the Skywalker name and legacy, defeated Palpatine's final form and declared herself a Jedi. The order that the Emperor spent decades trying to destroy outlived him. Order 66 was designed to extinguish the light permanently. It failed because the Force flows through all living things, because hope cannot be legislated out of existence, because darkness, no matter how powerful, always eventually falls to the light. The day the Jedi almost died became the day that proved they couldn't be killed. Not completely. Not forever. In every survivor who refused to give up their ideals, in every clone who fought against their programming, in every ordinary person who chose to help despite the danger, the light persisted. And it always will. The Jedi may fall. They may be scattered and hunted. They may be reduced to a handful of survivors hiding in the shadows. But as long as one person remembers what they stood for, as long as one person carries that light forward, the Order survives. Order 66 almost succeeded, but in the Force there is no try. There is only do or do not, and the Jedi did. They survived. They endured. They returned. The galaxy tried to forget them. The Empire tried to erase them, Palpatine tried to destroy them utterly. But the Force had other plans, because the day the Jedi almost died was also the day that ensured they would be reborn, the day that planted the seeds of the Empire's eventual destruction, the day that proved once and for all that the light side of the Force cannot be extinguished. It can only change form, adapt, and return stronger than before. This is the legacy of Order 66, not just death and betrayal, but the indomitable resilience of hope in the face of overwhelming darkness. The Jedi fell, but they rose again, and they always will. The true genius of Sidious's plan lay not just in the chips themselves, but in how the entire war was structured to make Order 66 inevitable and complete. Every aspect of the Clone Wars served his ultimate goal. The Jedi became generals not by choice, but by necessity. When the clone army appeared on Geonosis, arriving at the exact moment to save the Jedi from annihilation, it seemed like providence. The Republic had no standing military. The Separatists threatened to tear the galaxy apart. The clones were the only option. So the Jedi, who had spent millennia as peacekeepers and diplomats, became warriors. They led armies. They planned military campaigns. They made tactical decisions that sent thousands of clones to their deaths. This transformation served Sidious perfectly. The Jedi scattered across the galaxy, each one isolated with only their clone battalion for support, no longer concentrated in the temple where they could protect each other, no longer surrounded by other Force users who might sense the coming betrayal. Instead, they were alone, surrounded by hundreds or thousands of clone troopers programmed to kill them on command. The bonds between Jedi and clones that formed during the war weren't a flaw in Sidious's plan, they were essential to it. Every shared victory made the Jedi trust their troops more. Every battle where a clone saved his general's life made the next battle's guard drop lower. By the time Order 66 activated, most Jedi were more comfortable around their clone battalions than anywhere else. They felt safer with their troops than in the Senate. They trusted Commander Cody or Commander Bly more than they trusted Chancellor Palpatine. That trust killed them. Commander Pons had served under Mace Windu, one of the greatest warriors the Jedi Order ever produced. The stern clone officer had learned from Windu's example, developing his own code of honor and dignity. He respected the Jedi Master deeply, not just as a commanding officer, but as someone who treated clones with genuine respect. When Order 66 came through, Pons was no longer with Windu. The commander had been captured and executed by Boba Fett earlier in the war. But his troops, the Lightning Squadron, received the order while escorting other Jedi. These men who had learned honor from Mace Windu turned their weapons on Jedi without hesitation. The chip erased everything Windu had taught them about duty, about protecting the innocent, about standing for what's right. In seconds, they became exactly what Windu had spent years teaching them not to be. Commander Bly's relationship with Isla Secura had been one of the war's most notable Jedi-clone partnerships. The Twi'lek Jedi treated her troops with warmth and compassion. Bly, in turn, developed a protective instinct toward his general that went beyond simple military duty. There were moments during the war where that bond seemed to transcend the professional. A look held too long. A hand on a shoulder that lingered. Words left unspoken because duty demanded they remain unspoken. Whether those feelings could have ever become something more will never be known. Because when Order 66 activated, whatever Bly felt for Isla Secura was simply deleted. Not suppressed, not overcome by duty. Deleted. The chip didn't make him choose orders over affection. It made the affection cease to exist. He shot her in the back without warning. Then he and his troops stood over her body and fired again to ensure she was dead. There was no hesitation, no remorse, no recognition that they'd just murdered someone who had cared about them deeply. The Bly, who might have had feelings for Ayla, died the moment Order 66 activated. A hollow shell wearing his armor took his place. Captain Jag had flown alongside Plo Koon for so long that he'd developed some of the Jedi Master's own flight instincts. Plo Koon was legendary for his piloting skills, and Jag had learned from the best. The two had saved each other's lives in the air dozens of times. The Keldor Jedi called his pilots "my sons." He meant it. Plo Koon fought relentlessly for clone rights, arguing before the Senate that clones deserved the same legal protections as any sentient being. He ensured his troops received proper medical care, proper rest, proper recognition for their service. His pilots loved him for it. They would have flown into any danger if Plo Koon led them. When Jag received Order 66, all of that vanished. The Jedi Master who had fought for clone rights became just another target. Jag's wingmen locked onto Plo Koon's fighter with the same precision they'd used to protect him 1,000 times before. They blew him out of the sky. And when his burning starfighter plummeted toward Cato Nemoidia's surface, they didn't feel triumph or satisfaction or even relief. They felt nothing at all. The development of the inhibitor chips represented one of the most sophisticated applications of biological engineering and mind control ever achieved. The Kaminoans, working from specifications provided by Sidious and Count Dooku, created something that went far beyond simple behavioral modification. Each chip was a masterpiece of biotechnology, small enough to be implanted near the brain's central cortex without causing obvious damage, yet powerful enough to completely override a clone's autonomous decision-making processes. The chips weren't simply computer implants forcing biological compliance. They were organic technological hybrids that integrated with the clone's neural pathways at a fundamental level. As the clone matured, the chip grew with them, its tendrils spreading through the brain's decision-making centers. This integration was crucial. A foreign object in the brain might be detected, might be rejected by the immune system, might cause obvious symptoms. But the chips were designed to become part of the clone's natural brain structure. Medical scans showed them as normal brain tissue unless specifically looking for abnormalities. The Kaminoans tested the chips extensively during the clone army's development. Early prototypes caused behavioral problems. Clones became violent, unpredictable, or catatonic when contingency orders activated. The chips needed refinement. Later versions were more subtle. They allowed the clone to function normally, to develop individual personalities and preferences, to form bonds and relationships. The chip sat dormant, waiting, not interfering with daily life, until the activation code was spoken. The contingency orders, all 150 of them, were embedded in the chip's programming matrix. Each order had a specific trigger phrase and a specific behavioral protocol. But Order 66 was unique. It was the only contingency order that required complete personality override. Other orders might command clones to arrest the Chancellor or secure government facilities. These required obedience, but not the total reformation of the clone's perception of reality. Order 66 did both. It had to, because the clones had spent years fighting alongside the Jedi. Simple commands to kill the Jedi might cause hesitation, might be questioned or resisted. So the chip rewrote memory and perception instantly. Jedi allies became Jedi traitors. Trusted generals became threats to the Republic. Friends became enemies. The clones' tactical knowledge remained intact. They needed to efficiently eliminate Force users who could sense danger and defend themselves. Their marksmanship, their understanding of Jedi combat styles, their knowledge of their generals' specific habits and abilities, all of that stayed accessible. But the emotional connection, the loyalty, the friendship, all of that was severed completely. The technology required to achieve this was staggering. The chips had to process complex social information in real time, identifying which individuals counted as Jedi for the purposes of Order 66. This meant accessing the clones' memories, analyzing their relationships, and determining appropriate targets. It meant the chip could distinguish between Ahsoka Tano, former Padawan who left the Order, and random Force-sensitive civilian. Both were Force users, but only one was a target for Order 66. The precision was terrifying. When Fives discovered the truth about the chips and tried to remove his own, he experienced partial activation. The chip began its override process but couldn't complete it because it was being tampered with. The result was catastrophic. Fives experienced fragmentary memories, contradictory impulses, and paranoid delusions. He could feel the chip trying to control him, could sense something was wrong with his own thoughts, but couldn't fully articulate what was happening. To observers like Rex and the Jedi, Fives appeared to be suffering a mental breakdown. The irony was cruel. His attempt to expose the chips made him seem exactly like what the Kaminoans claimed happened when chips malfunctioned: unstable, violent, paranoid. Sidious used this perfectly. He triggered Fives' chip during their meeting, causing the ARC trooper to become aggressive and erratic. Then he ensured that witnesses saw only a clone having a breakdown, not a clone trying to save the Jedi. The few clones who managed to resist Order 66 did so because of specific circumstances that disrupted the chip's function. Rex survived because Ahsoka removed his chip during the crisis, using information Fives had given and Rex had remembered. But even for Rex, the experience was traumatic beyond description. He described it later as feeling his own hands moving without his permission, his own voice speaking words he didn't mean, his own eyes seeing a friend as an enemy. The worst part wasn't the loss of control. It was the certainty in that moment that he was doing the right thing. The chip made him believe killing Ahsoka was necessary and just. Even as some deep part of him screamed in protest, the chip's programming told him this was his duty, his mission, his purpose. When Ahsoka removed the chip and Rex's own mind returned, the whiplash was devastating. One moment he knew with absolute certainty that Ahsoka was a traitor who needed to die. The next moment, he knew with equal certainty that she was his friend, and he'd just tried to murder her. The cognitive dissonance was enough to break most beings. Rex survived it, but he was never quite the same afterward. Commander Wolf and Commander Gregor also removed their chips at some point, though the circumstances remain unclear. Both showed signs of lasting psychological damage: paranoia, trust issues, difficulty forming new relationships. They had experienced the ultimate violation, having their own minds turned against them, being forced to act against their deepest values while believing those actions were correct. Some clones who learned the truth about the chips later, after Order 66, after the Empire rose, after the Jedi were gone, couldn't process the information. The cognitive dissonance was too severe. They had memories of executing Jedi. Those memories felt justified, felt righteous. They remembered making the decision to fire, remembered feeling that it was the correct action, accepting that those memories were false, that they'd been controlled, that they'd murdered friends while believing it was their duty. It was too much. Most rejected the truth entirely. It was easier to believe the Jedi had been traitors than to accept they'd been used as weapons. The few who accepted the truth often didn't survive long afterward. Gungi, the young Wookiee Padawan who had trained at the Jedi Temple and fought during the Clone Wars, survived Order 66 through a combination of his species' natural resilience and the protection of his homeworld. When the Purge began, Gungi was on Kashyyyk, separated from other Jedi. The Wookiees, who had deep cultural respect for Force users and hatred for the Empire's oppression, hid the young Padawan in the deepest parts of their forest cities. Clone trooper patrols searched for him, but Kashyyyk's Rosher trees stretched kilometers high, with thousands of hidden platforms and secret passages. The Wookiees moved Gungi constantly, staying one step ahead of Imperial forces. The young Wookiee survived, but he lost his entire culture as a Jedi. There were no masters to complete his training, no temple to return to, no order to join. He had his lightsaber and his basic Force training, but he would never become the Jedi Knight he'd dreamed of being. Gungi's story represented thousands of similar tragedies. Padawans who survived but whose training was cut short, whose potential was never fulfilled, who lived with the knowledge of what they could have become. Oppo Rancisis, the Thespiasian Jedi Master, known for his strategic brilliance and mastery of Force illusions, was one of the council members who wasn't in the temple when Order 66 struck. Rancisis had been assigned to Saleokami earlier in the war, and remained there through its conclusion. When clone troopers received Order 66, the Master's precognitive abilities gave him just enough warning to escape the initial attack. He fled into Saleokami's wilderness, using Force illusions to confuse his pursuers. For weeks, he evaded clone patrols, staying one step ahead through a combination of tactical genius and Force abilities. But Saleokami was eventually locked down by Imperial forces. Every spaceport was monitored. Every ship was searched. Rancisis was trapped on a hostile world with an entire army hunting him. The Master survived for months, possibly even years, before finally falling to Imperial forces. The exact circumstances of his death remain unclear, but his lightsaber eventually ended up in an Imperial archive, proof that even the most tactically brilliant Jedi couldn't escape forever. Jocasta Nu's story deserves deeper examination, for it reveals the Empire's systematic destruction of Jedi knowledge. The elderly librarian escaped the initial temple assault by being in the deepest levels of the archives when the 501st attacked. She fled through maintenance tunnels that most Jedi didn't even know existed. Nu understood immediately what the Empire would do with the archives. Thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. Lightsaber construction techniques, Force meditation practices, historical records of the Jedi Order, holocrons containing the wisdom of ancient masters, all of it would be corrupted or destroyed. She couldn't allow that, so she returned. Nu spent weeks infiltrating the ruined temple, now an Imperial fortress. She moved through the wreckage like a ghost, recovering precious holocrons and texts. Every night was a mission into enemy territory. Every artifact saved was a victory against the Empire's attempt to erase Jedi history. She created hidden caches across Coruscant, burying holocrons in locations she hoped future Force users might eventually find. She transmitted some information to secured networks, hoping it would survive until the Empire fell. But the Grand Inquisitor, who had once been a Jedi temple guard and knew the archives as well as Nu herself, eventually caught her. The confrontation was brief and brutal. Nu fought not to survive, but to buy time, to ensure the last holocron she carried, containing information about Force-sensitive children across the galaxy, was destroyed before the Empire could claim it. She succeeded. The holocron was obliterated. The Grand Inquisitor killed her immediately afterward, but her final act ensured the Empire couldn't use Jedi records to hunt down the next generation of potential Force users. Nu's sacrifice represented the kind of heroism that defined the Jedi at their best. Not flashy combat or Force powers, but the willingness to die protecting others, even others who didn't yet exist. The story of Ka-Kruk, the whip-hid Jedi Master, became almost legendary among the few Jedi who survived and maintained communication. Ka-Kruk had a remarkable ability to survive seemingly fatal situations. During the Clone Wars, he'd been left for dead multiple times, only to recover and return to duty. His species' natural resilience combined with his Force abilities made him extraordinarily difficult to kill. When Order 66 struck, Ka-Kruk was commanding clone forces on a remote Outer Rim world. The clones turned on him with the same sudden violence that killed thousands of other Jedi. They shot him repeatedly, at close range, confirming the kill before moving on. Ka-Kruk survived. His whip-hid physiology allowed him to enter a hibernation trance that mimicked death. He remained motionless for hours while the clones searched for other survivors. When he finally awakened, alone among the bodies of his troops, he understood what had happened. The clones who had fought beside him, who he'd come to know as individuals, had tried to murder him without warning or explanation. The Master fled into the wilderness, eventually finding his way off-planet. He spent years in hiding, growing increasingly bitter and isolated. But Ka-Kruk's story didn't end in darkness. He eventually found other survivors, Padawans who had escaped, Force sensitives who needed training, refugees fleeing Imperial persecution. The bitter, isolated Master found new purpose protecting these survivors. He created a hidden enclave, a secret sanctuary where Force users could live without fear. It wasn't the Jedi Order. He made no attempt to rebuild that, but it was something, a place where the light endured. Ka-Kruk's journey from soldier to survivor to protector represented the path many Jedi walked after Order 66. They couldn't restore what was lost, but they could create something new from the ashes. The Inquisitorius deserves deeper examination, for it represented perhaps the cruelest twist in Palpatine's long campaign against the Jedi. It wasn't enough to kill them. He wanted to corrupt them, to turn them into weapons against their own kind. The Grand Inquisitor had been a Jedi temple guard, one of the anonymous protectors who swore to defend the Order with their lives. His fall began before Order 66, during the crisis of Barriss Offee's betrayal. When Offee, disillusioned with the Jedi's role in the war, bombed the temple hangar and framed Ahsoka Tano, the temple guards investigated. The future Grand Inquisitor was among those who arrested Ahsoka, who testified against her, who helped convict an innocent Padawan. The revelation of Ahsoka's innocence shook him deeply. He had failed in his sworn duty to protect the Jedi. He had helped condemn an innocent. The Order he'd dedicated his life to had become corrupted by the war, had lost its way. When Order 66 came, he was already vulnerable to the dark side's whispers. Vader offered him a choice: death or service. The fallen guard chose service, rationalizing it as a form of penance. He would hunt down the Jedi who remained, the ones who had allowed the Order to become corrupt. But serving the Empire meant becoming exactly what he'd once fought against. Every Jedi he hunted, every Force-sensitive child he murdered, every act of darkness pushed him further from the light he'd once protected. The Grand Inquisitor's tragedy was that he knew what he'd become. Unlike the clones whose chips rewrote their memories, he retained full awareness of his choices. He remembered being a temple guard. He remembered his oaths. And he broke them anyway, over and over, until the darkness consumed everything he'd once been. The second sister, Trilla Suduri, had been a Padawan when Order 66 struck. She'd escaped with her master, Siri Junda, fleeing into the Outer Rim. For a time, they survived, moving between safe houses, helping other survivors. But the Empire caught them eventually. Siri was tortured for information about other surviving Jedi. She resisted as long as she could, but eventually, under extreme duress, she gave up the location where Trilla was hiding. Trilla was captured, and she learned that her master had betrayed her. The Inquisitors tortured her physically and psychologically, showing her recordings of Siri's confession over and over. Your master abandoned you. She gave you to us to save herself. The Jedi lie about loyalty and compassion. They only care about themselves. Broken by torture and betrayal, Trilla fell to the dark side. She became the second sister, one of the Inquisitorius's most effective hunters, and she blamed Siri for everything, for the torture, for her fall, for becoming a monster. When they finally confronted each other years later, Trilla's rage was consuming. Siri tried to explain, tried to apologize, tried to bring her former Padawan back to the light. But Trilla refused redemption. She'd built her identity around rage and betrayal. Letting go of that meant confronting the true horror of what she'd become, what she'd done. In the end, Vader killed her for failing him. Her last moments showed a glimpse of the Padawan she'd once been, recognizing Siri's grief and regret. But it was too late. The second sister died unredeemed, another victim of Order 66's long shadow. The Inquisitors' stories followed similar patterns. Most had been Jedi, masters, knights, Padawans, who survived the initial purge only to be captured and broken. Some fell to save their lives. Others fell to save someone else. Some fell because torture broke their minds. Others because despair broke their spirits. All of them became weapons against their former brothers and sisters. All of them were trapped in a cycle of darkness that most never escaped. The ninth sister had been a Dowutan Jedi, strong in the Force and physically powerful. She'd survived Order 66 and escaped into hiding, protecting Force-sensitive refugees. The Empire captured her protecting a group of Force-sensitive children. They gave her a choice: join the Inquisitorius, or watch the children die slowly. She joined, and then she was forced to hunt down and kill other Jedi protecting other children, repeating the very scenario that had broken her. The Empire's cruelty was methodical. They made the Inquisitors become what they most hated. The ninth sister eventually showed signs of questioning her path, of recognizing what she'd become. Cal Kestis's compassion, his refusal to kill her when he had the chance, sparked something in her. But questioning the dark side didn't mean escaping it. She died still an Inquisitor, still trapped in the cycle of violence, still unredeemed. Not all Inquisitors had been Jedi. Some had been dark side users from other traditions, Force users who had never followed the Jedi path. But these were the minority. Vader and Palpatine preferred corrupted Jedi because their fall represented the ultimate triumph over the Order. Every Jedi who became an Inquisitor was proof that the light side had failed, that the Jedi way was weak, that darkness offered the only true power. The Inquisitors were weapons, but they were also propaganda, living proof that the Emperor's narrative about the Jedi was correct.